Finally, Ojasvita, if you could guide us on the methods of compliances followed by different companies for data protection.
It's the three-step process that you need to look at when you're looking at data protection compliances in the region. First of all, there's a need to study what are the data protection laws and requirements on data protection laws in each of the local countries where you are operating. So every country has their own data protection laws. It's important to understand what is sensitive personal data, what is personal data, what is allowed to be transferred outside the country in that particular jurisdiction, what sort of consequences are there for non-compliance, etc. On the second step, you would have to look at what are the laws in the place where your data center is located, where you basically processing all the data or collecting all the data or accessing the data. So those sort of aspects need to be looked at. And then finally, I think everything said and done, it's important to have a comprehensive review of your internal processes as far as access to data protection or any kind of data is concerned. So it's not very difficult to be compliant with data protection laws in the region because pretty much the principles are equally applicable. There are different laws and there are different punishments and there are different definitions of what is allowed or what is called as personal data and what is not called personal data. But how you can access it, who can access it, those sort of basic requirements, basic policies can be uniform across the region. So how well you can protect your personal data, who can access it, with what permissions, with what level of authority. I think once those three things are taken care of, you can have a very robust and a very compliant data protection policy in place. As far as Indian law is evolving and the other laws, are already there, is the amount of penalty that is involved. I think we don't have as strict or as high penalties in India. So even if a company is found violating, there's a give and take. I don't think it's a very strict law for which anybody is going to worry about, unless there are going to be changes or there's going to be an increased amount. The reason why GDPR is very effective and the reason why GDPR is everybody is following it is because of the high level of penalties that are there on it. So that is another aspect, I think, when we're talking about data protection laws evolving in India. It's an interesting thing to look at.
That really helps, ma'am. Thank you. So it was really nice talking to you. Anything concluding that you would want to speak on data protection law, a guide or something, for our audience?
As far as data protection is concerned, firstly, it's very important to understand that it is very much a very important aspect of your policy making. We are past that era when you can ignore compliance with data protection laws. Given that we have very robust data protection policies, laws, and very heavy penalties for non-compliance, it is very much a focus and should be a focus for all organizations that are dealing with any sort of data. Secondly, given that we are moving more towards remote working because of COVID, and a lot of data is being collected from a different source, being stored in a different source and being accessed from multiple sources because people are located across the world and people are working remotely. It is all the more important to understand what are the laws involved, what are the compliances as per those particular local laws involved, and then to come up with a single policy that is so robust that you are compliant with almost all the local laws. One easy way of doing that is to make sure that you're compliant with GDPR, because that is probably the most stringent, the most stringent data protection law in the world. So if you are compliant with the basic principles of GDPR, you can be safely, within the ambits of all the local data protection laws. So I think those are the 3 points that I would like to conclude with on this discussion on data protection laws.
Thank you, ma'am. This one really helps.